Welcome back to Port to Port. In part 3 of the podcast, we're tackling some of the most critical topics in shipping today. Cybersecurity is a huge focus. Hear about real-life threats like phishing attacks and system jamming on ships. Learn how companies are training their teams to fight cyber risks and why cyber insurance is becoming a must-have in the industry. We'll also take you through the lessons learned from major maritime accidents like the Baltimore Bridge collapse. Small decisions can have huge impacts, and this episode is packed with insights on how to prevent disasters. And for those dreaming of a career in the maritime world, we've got advice from the pros. From exploring new career paths to finding the right mentors, this episode is all about helping you navigate your future. So, gear up for part 3. It's packed with knowledge and inspiration you won't want to miss.
Talk about the cybersecurity, because I see you're also an investor in cybersecurity. How does that work?
Future of risk
Okay.
is digital. That's the punchline. It's always going to be risky transiting the high seas. There are always going to be those freak waves and always going to be those storms, those fires on board, those groundings. There's always going to be there. But there is a new kid on the block, and that's digital risk. And I think as we talk about autonomous ships in the same breath, we should also talk about the risk that it brings along, and that's a digital risk. And if you keep your eyes shut to the digital aspect of how risk is assessed at sea, I think you'll be doing injustice. If you're a company that is expertising in the business of risk assessment, you can't ignore digital risk and have to assess it, have to measure it, have to mitigate it, and what you can't, you got to insure it. The cybersecurity as an insurance ticket price is only growing, and there are more and more companies getting into insuring the.
So basically, you're saying the companies are buying cyber insurance.
Yes, cyber risk insurance, because you can't mitigate everything today. Nothing is cyber safe. Pentagon. I mean, the precedents of countries who are standing in the race are all having the threat and risk. These days, cyber wars are happening without us being aware. Did you know that the internet that you and I are exposed to is only 14% of actually the WWW that we talk about, the World Wide Web?
Yeah.
What you and I civilians access is 14%. Do you know what 70% of that World Wide Web is comprising of? It's dark web. It's not even deep web. Deep web is just 30%, maybe 25%, which is just one layer below you and I. Maybe the militaries of the world use it. But the dark web, which is where most of the hackers make the money and it's all floating out there, it's all deep web, and that's 70%, not 70%. Yeah.
My goodness.
So,
Captain, do you have any take? Have you ever faced, because you're handling a fleet of 500 ships, any cybersecurity events, anything?
Definitely, both on board and from the office.
Really?
For payments, people faking, emails to get payments done. That happens a lot. There are good checks and balance within our company to mitigate that. There's a lot of learning material that we spend a lot of money on that, actually teaching our office staff how to recognize the signs of hacking or phishing emails. On board the vessels also, there have been instances where they have completely blocked out they just jam the system with so many emails that the vessel cannot communicate to the charterers or cannot receive emails from the charterers, right? So it's a real threat. Don't take it lightly. Sometimes it actually came into the system through somebody's private phone that they were using. Right. So we have, that's a real, the channels that you visit while you are on the ship's communication system has an impact on the business of the company. And in the similar vein, there have been cases of online gambling going on board ships where crews have actually lost money. So these are all real things that are happening. And a lot of it is linked to, cybersecurity, mitigating cyber risk by teaching people what you can't mitigate, then insuring for it.
Oh, you also take insurance?
Yes.
Oh.
So here's the thing about cybersecurity, and it's a myth I want to bust. It is a people's problem. Like safety is a people's problem.
Correct.
It is a people's problem. It is a behavioral change that one needs. Like you have safety awareness drills, you have to have cyber awareness drills. Like you have misdemeanors who are human beings, you have people who are playing the cyber mischief or being irresponsible in a non-cyber hygiene manner, and as a result, there's just one small breach by somebody, or carelessness one needs, and there you go. You have a incident. So, like you have safety training, you have to have cyber training drills. Like you have people who can cause disasters, pollution, lapses in safety concerns, a fire on board, somebody just lying on bed smoking, or somebody just causing an incident, being not safe enough in their behavioral trait. Exactly like that, cybersecurity is a people problem. It is down to training people and down
Training
to
people, yeah, that makes sense. Right. Captain, also I wanted to talk about a Dali incident, like the US Baltimore Bridge collapse.
Yeah.
What's your take on it? Was it the captain's fault, or was it routine, or what do you think, Captain?
Well, I'm biased towards this answer, and I'll have to take the liberty of being biased.
Please,
and
go ahead.
I have my views. I have a lot of views on it, and I don't want to talk about what most people are talking about. I want to talk about it being the bridge fault. How about that? Have you heard that?
Bridge fault.
Yes, the fault of the bridge.
That's interesting. I want to know the story.
If you go to any construction site, anything that is today built, if this is something you're building in the middle of the sea, you'll have a fendering system around it.
Interesting, yes.
And it's not that the bridge didn't have. The pillar that had the elision with the bow of the vessel had the fendering, but it was designed for 20,000 ton vessels.
Oh.
It had every civil construction that you have fendering, you have cement piles around it. But if you take a 100,000 ton vessel,
20,000 and
it's built for
100,000.
that. It's
Yeah.
built in the 40s.
Freaking hell.
So I think had it had adequate fendering, it should have fended off the vessel.
course.
It shouldn't have led the thing. So I think it's the fault of the bridge. Yes, the vessel had the breakdown. Yes, the vessel had an incident. Yes, the vessel did break down. Yes, the vessel should have maintained her systems and had the generator. All that said and done, I think the proximate cause of the incident is the fact that there was inadequate fendering around the bridge.
But who's responsible for that?
The people who built the bridge, or people who allowed such big ships without making adequate risk assessment to let such
But
big ships
they won't
transit.
talk about it at all.
Well, I will.
No, that's
what do you
that's
think?
a very interesting
Very
take on it.
interesting, yeah.
I'd just like nuance that with something that is related to shipping and taking it into a different direction. After the first call was made, that bridge was completely evacuated, I believe, in 63 seconds. When the pilots first said that, okay, we're going to hit the bridge, there is whoever was manning the controls, there was not a single car on the. So the only people actually, the
They were workers.
poor people who died were the workers.
Yeah.
How come there were no cars?
True.
Because when that bridge was built, the guys who are manning the control stations for the bridge have been drilling this every day or every week or every month so many times that, how do we close the bridge down?
True.
Right? And it worked. It worked in an emergency. Otherwise, the loss of life would have been much higher. Of course, there was an hour of the day that had a impact as well. So I think for our seafarers, when we are doing our drills, if you do it properly, it'll help you in an emergency. So that was kind of my biggest take on this, right? The second thing that I come to is about, what Zarir has said is very valid, and I fully agree with that. But we are talking about from a shipping perspective. Could this happen to anybody? I think so. This could happen anywhere, right? And at least the takeout that I have and what I have gone to my masters and chief engineers is, guys, the guy that can make the most difference in this is the person on the ground, right? I don't want to comment about, who's blame or not at this stage. There is a much bigger body, the NTSB, which is doing the investigation, and I would kind of like to let it come out from that when the official investigation comes out. But learn from this. Every small decision you do when a generator blackout happens, the way you configured your bus bars, the way you are dealing with those blackouts. Did anybody think I've had 3 blackouts in port or 2 blackouts? What am I? Is this ship ready for sailing?
True.
Right? True. That decision cannot be made by anybody else other than the guy on the ship.
True.
So realize that responsibility, realize the power that you have.
True.
And the effect of your decisions can end up with 6 people or losing their life. Right? And I think that's more important, and the immediate steps that we as a shipping community should do. Right? Look at your systems. And in the office also, like I've been telling the guys that we have you looked at our PMS routines? There was apparently from the preliminary report, there was one section of the bus bar which was not used for the last 6 months. Right? So why not? I mean, how many masters will say, oh, I've been on this, I always use the port anchor. Right? But tomorrow you may need the starboard anchor. Do you know whether it's going to work or not?
Correct.
So let's pay attention to those little things, those things of seamanship. And I think it is going to be a game changer. Exxon Valdez was a game changer.
Yeah.
And just because it was in US, it will be a game changer. And I would just like to ask you guys, do you know when the Suez Canal got blocked by the Evergreen vessel?
Yeah.
Does the ship manager's name come in any of the conversations?
Never.
Right? Do we know who the ship manager for that one was?
No.
Do we know who the ship manager for the Dali is?
Yes.
That's the difference. So we need to realize that as a shipping community.
Correct.
And the risk of going to USA, trading to USA for dry cargo ships is going to completely change.
Yeah, like I said, if they just go around looking at all the bridges, whether they are fendering or not,
it'll be a big challenge
anywhere in the world, and just come up with that let's not have such big ships transit bridges which are not fended well. I think that in itself will be a game changer.
Game changer.
But that
It'll come.
passage is such a busy passage, and how come they could not notice that?
Look, like I said, it's down to how you look at risk.
Yeah.
I've been riding a Harley for the last 16 years out of the 20 I've been in Dubai. And I've had enough friends who've taken a license, and their families put their foot down saying we can't have you sit on the back of a bike in Dubai and it's too risky and things. And been happily riding. In fact, I go out with my friends, once a year on destination rides, go out for 10, 12 days. We don't even take our own bikes, we hire them. So how you look at risk is different, and everyone looks at it differently. So like I said, how you mitigate that risk once you identify it also is different. I mean, I have my own ways, and I think too liberating.
I also, sorry to interrupt, Captain, what I realized, because my job is also very risky every time.
Yes.
Every move is risky,
Absolute. Pilotage is very, very risky.
Yeah, and at a point, I realized that any accident which happens, it's not because of one problem. There are multiple things happening at the same time. You just have to be smart enough to notice that the chain is forming.
Yes.
You have to somehow break the chain.
And I think that's why I said that, somebody took a decision to change the breaker. Somebody took a decision to do something different, right? Yeah. It starts with a third engineer or a fourth engineer on board the ship, comes to second engineer, can he break the chain, as you say? Then maybe it came to the chief engineer, maybe it went to the office. They knew that there had been, so did somebody, right? So the easiest people to stop is at the grassroots, right? So use that and don't get intimidated by, what's going to happen with the charterer, what's going to happen with this. Those decisions will, come much later.
Yeah, typical cheese block, for
Model.
an accident to go through it, the incident has to go through so many aligned holes for it to hit the target. Any one misaligned, this thing could stop an incident happening, and it's such a correct thing. And when we do cause, extent, and nature of damage, when we go out to investigate, we always have a number of causations: the proximate cause, the immediate cause, the secondary cause, the contributory causes. So there are a lot of those, and all those are the typical cheese block
exactly.
with different
Correct.
size holes, but they all aligned nicely for it to go and hit the target and a disaster to happen.
Yeah, I mean, if you could just move one,
Yeah,
accident won't happen.
absolutely.
True. Interesting. And Captain, one more question. Gulf of Oman accident. Do you think we are not safe in this area, or what do you think? How it's going to be?
Look, I've seen enough disasters and I'm very saddened to see what's happening. The short answer is it's an extremely unsafe transit. It started off with saying those who are asset owners or investors of the a certain state will be targeted. Now there is everything, even as much as a vessel which had at some point in the recent past a port call in one of those state ports are targeted. Even if you have a ship owner with a name which is sounding like that of a community is. So, and it is unsafe. Number one, it's extremely unsafe. So whoever is braving transiting the straits, Bab-el-Mandeb straits, have to take that a huge risk. I hope there's enough reward, but I don't think playing with lives is enough reward for anybody. I don't know if they have conscience, they will know. But the sad part, and I think this is my concluding statement on the whole thing, is there is no light at the end of the tunnel. I don't see in the short term there being a short-term solution for this, even to medium term, because this is something that's going to be like the piracy incidents that were happening at sea. And although all governments have aligned to say no, but there are those players who are always going to be gaining from the piracy activities, always going to be in the game. Like that, this does not seem to have any geopolitical solution, and that is the saddest part about the reality of this, in my view. What do you think, Shubpreet?
No, absolutely. I agree with you. It's mindless what is going on, and it doesn't help anyone, right? Because it's very broad-based. There's no logical reason. And like I said initially, also I feel for the seafarers because they are they are caught in the midst of this. So yeah, fully agree with you, Zarir.
Captain, I also have a take on what's happening in Houthis and Israel and whatever. I mean, I don't know if I'm qualified enough to talk about it, but I only read in the news and here and there that there's an alternative route which could be made through Gaza and which could also be alternative to Suez Canal. Is there something related to that? You heard about it?
No, not to my knowledge. No,
not to my knowledge. No, that's too far away geographically. But you have to, if you want to transit the Red Sea, you got to,
No, you don't have to transit Red Sea then. I mean, you could take a route
through, but it'll
to
be
Mediterranean from crossing.
I'm not.
But again, to me, like the Suez Canal crisis was happening even before. And the Suez Canal has been closed even through the ages, when the British and the French when it was nationalized by the Egyptians. So there has, these choke points of the world have always had a, effect on trade. True. The spice trade changed all the way because of what happened in Constantinople. Mm-hmm. So definitely these choke points, whether it's Straits of Gibraltar, Singapore Straits, which is why it's very important to have some neutral governments or far-thinking governments like Singapore controlling that part of the world. True. Right? So, this kind of geopolitical gimmickry around these kind of things have been happening for ages. We are just living through it currently. I hope it will be resolved, because in the end, commerce always prevails.
True. I mean, in pandemic also we have seen everything is stopped. The cruise ships have been sold, so many cruise ships, but our regular trading was happening like the same.
Yeah. So commerce always wins and prevails. That's the human nature.
True. 10 minutes to your next meeting.
Okay, so one last question to both of you, one by one. Sailing captain or sailing officer or sailing engineer, do you have any career advices for them? How and where should they be thinking? So,
Zarir, why don't you go first?
Age before beauty, man.
Age before beauty. Okay, so I'm the older one. I'll go first, right? Um, uh, for most of the sailing staff, and I wouldn't even say captain, chief engineer. I think once you get to a senior officer level, uh, you know, as a chief mate or a second engineer, you should be starting to look out the bigger picture. Uh, whilst sailing is your first step and it's an entry into the wider world of shipping, but there are many examples, successful examples of people who have made it in different streams of shipping. It could be shipping law, it could be ship chartering, brokering, it could be ship construction, it could be ship management. It's a very wide field, and you need to know what interests you. You know, there were guys with me who were like commercially minded, but they were useless as a second engineer on board the ship.
Interesting.
Right? And they recognize that, okay, I really don't like spanners that much. Yes, I'm an engineer, but that's not what I want to do. Or I am a theoretically, shaped person.
True.
Right? The other thing is what you learn on board a ship is being independent. So don't just limit yourself to shipping industry. Your skills are valuable and are transportable elsewhere as well.
Okay.
Right? So have that wider lookout. And finally, the last two things I would say, one step at a time, never a step back. If you've decided to leave shipping, the worst guys are the ones who go out, take a shore job for 2 years as a superintendent and say, oh, this is not for me, I want my freedom, they go back at sea.
Yeah. True.
Right? Zarir, I think, said that you need to burn your bridges to whatever you are doing.
Yeah.
Get out of your comfort zone, burn your bridge, take that one step at a time, keep moving.
Yeah.
Don't look back. So that's one advice. The second one is mentorship. I think both from your example and my example, wherever I went, whatever field I went, I always seeked out a leading light.
True.
Okay, that's what I want to do. That's my North Star. And I started following that person. Eventually, as you come closer and closer, you said, yeah, okay, that's good enough. That's the new North Star, right? So seek out your North Stars and start moving in that direction. You will also realize that eventually you will become a North Star yourself. For someone. And when you are a North Star, you get that confidence again that, okay, yeah, maybe yes, it's a validation, right? That yes, I'm also moving in the right direction. Yeah. So that's my two bits from my, 30 plus years in the industry.
Very interesting.
No, fantastic. And I'll pick that one on the mentorship. I've been very fortunate. My first shore job was offered to me with a referral from somebody who knew about me. Captain Antya, who's my mentor, my guru, who's taught me everything I know about the consultancy world, is still my mentor. God bless him. I still look upon him, and he's still in touch with us. Mentors, I think you got to swallow that pride or think you have arrived, and always look up to a guru, look up to that North Star. Always keep looking for somebody whose footsteps you want to follow or advice you want to take. You've got to be humble enough for that, number one. Number two, for those who are at sea, and to answer your question directly, I think there's one thing that any seafarer who's watching this, I want to say is quit early. If you want to be successful ashore, quit early. I came ashore when I was 32. I can assure you that coming out of your comfort zone is absolutely temporary. It just feels uncomfortable when that change happens. As soon as you overcome that change and overcome that discomfort, you're all right. You're in a new comfort zone. And when you look at yourself and say that this is getting too easy, you can move into it. And as an entrepreneur, I keep challenging my limits and my boundaries, and cybersecurity is one of them. I consider myself as an electronic dinosaur, so to say, if there is anything like that. But here we are. We're running a cybersecurity business, and now we are tied up with a company called Consurus out of London, which does risk mapping for insurance companies, and we're entering into a new dimension of risk because it's no longer about an underwriter assessing a risk of a ship. It is about understanding whether she has a proper CII score, whether she's Cap 1, whether she is got the right ownership, whether the trade she's done in the past has been ethical trade, legal trade, ownership, ultimate beneficiary owner. So all that is part of the new risk dimension of which an underwriter has to see. And this is a company which does that. I'm very proud to be associated and the Middle East partners, Consorus. And that's me coming out. It's as latest as this month.
Yeah.
So here we are as all the time challenging our comfort, and coming out of it is the key, and getting yourself motivated to be comfortable with that change, and having that change mindset is key.
All right, guys. So as you heard Captain Shubpreet and Captain Zarir Irani, that to come out of your comfort zone is first thing. Second thing is look out for a mentor. And third thing is quit early if you want to pursue career at shore job. So guys, Captain Zarir and Captain Shubpreet, thank you so much for joining today. It's a wrap. And guys, if you like Port to Port talk show, do subscribe and do put comments below. And I will also share the links of the profile of Captain Shubpreet and Captain Zarir. Thank you so much for joining once again. See you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.